order that their decisions be founded on justice and prudence. Amen. Please be seated.
Deputy Mayor, I'll move concurrence in the agenda for tonight.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried.
I'll move the minutes.
I'll second those minutes.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. The first item we have tonight under the order of public notice bylaws and related reports is CR 12-76.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can bring this matter forward and move concurrence on behalf of Public Works. I want to speak about it. Maybe that's not me.
That's okay.
I want to speak about it a little bit. This is a key option to address one of our major challenges, and that is one aspect of infrastructure, but a very important aspect as far as our citizens are concerned. That is roads, and in particular, fixing local roads. Now, I want to address what I hear from some citizens with respect to the condition of their roads and fixing it. And what some of them tell me is that, well, listen, I've been paying my taxes dutifully for 30 years or whatever the case may be, and they don't maybe appreciate the reasoning behind why they've been paying taxes regularly and yet they have to engage in a local improvement. Well, I certainly agree that we have some very honorable citizens who have been paying their tax for many decades. However, the key with respect to fixing roads is that they have not been paying enough to have all of our roads fixed pursuant to our property taxes. Now, we are heading into the second half of the National Infrastructure Summit in September, and that'll cover off a broad range of issues, but that essentially is the issue. That's why we have the LIP, which is a provincially administered, or it's an act of provincial legislation which we are governed by. So there's certain we're not just able to do whatever we want with respect to fixing roads pursuant to the LIP. We have to follow the provincial legislation. And so that is essentially why, even though some citizens have been paying taxes regularly, we don't have enough from property taxes to pay for the roads. Now, it is a pretty good deal, however, and just so citizens understand, the citizens have to cost share only on the concrete work, Madam Chair. The city pays for a portion of the concrete work, all of the road work, and then all the work relating to the underground pipes. Now, I did just want to say something about the report. I'm sure if I can find it here. In our report, it states, and I'm just reading the first paragraph at page 2 under discussion, the proposed 2012 local improvements program involves the replacement of walks, curbs, gutters, and alley lighting new installation. Locations are selected where, in the judgment of the City Operations Division, such replacements are necessary due to the amount of deterioration, the age of existing works, or other factors. Now, here's another key, is that benefiting property owners may also submit a request to have the work undertaken. So if there are citizens out there who are not entirely satisfied with the condition of their road or their sidewalk in front of their house, they can bring forward a request with their neighbors to have it upgraded pursuant to the local improvement program. So that is an option that is available to citizens, that if you want it improved, you can ask to have it improved by approaching us. So, Madam Chair, we have a few streets which have been approved and will be proceeding this year pursuant to the LIP to be upgraded to a like new condition. And as the administration indicates in the report, we have found that once we do an LIP in a neighborhood, many of the residents there take it upon themselves to then improve their properties. So it has a net benefit all around. So with that, Madam Chair, move concurrence again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clifton.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I'd just like to note that, and you kind of, Councillor Brown just touched on this, but alley lighting is also a local improvement project that's eligible. And this time, I think for the first time maybe, or maybe there haven't been too many, there is a block of alley lighting that's being done. And as Councillor Brown is going over the details of the LIP, local improvement projects, you can either pay for it all at once, or you can pay for it over 10 years. So it makes it affordable for some. So I'm very pleased to see the alley lighting being used.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Madam,
2012-37 going to third reading at this meeting.
all those in favor? Carried unanimously.
And I'll move, seconded by Councillor Fougere, that bylaw 2012-37 be read a third time.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you. Next, under the order of committee reports, is a report from Executive Committee. It is number CR 12-77.
Councillor O'Donnell?
Thank you. On behalf of Executive Committee, I'd like to bring this forward. It is Regina Exhibition Association Limited continuance as a non-profit corporation controlled by the City of Regina. Madam Deputy Mayor, I'd like to actually have this report tabled. I'd like to have it tabled to June the 11th, and I would like to provide two reasons. One is that we would like to give Ebras Place an opportunity to continue the process that they've begun with their employees and their stakeholders, and they require a little additional time to that. And secondly, as this is a significant change, we want to make sure that we provide the public the opportunity to comment should they so wish. So I'm looking for June the 11th, please.
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Thank you. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you. Next, under the order of motions, is motion MN 12-3 from Councillor Clipsham.
I'll second that.
Councillor Clipsham? Okay. Moved and seconded.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. The motion reads, the City of Regina provide $100,000 from the General Reserve Fund towards the purchase of equipment at the Kramer IMAX Theatre, provided the Government of Saskatchewan or a Crown Corporation matches the City's $100,000 contribution. If I just asked the clerk, when I composed this, I was kind of referring to the whereases, and I think we better add the purchase of equipment, of 3D IMAX equipment at the Kramer IMAX Theatre. And if I could just speak to that, I think it's been seconded.
Thank you, yes.
The equipment is in operation at the IMAX Theatre, but hasn't been fully paid for. Another $400,000 is necessary. There is a private philanthropic foundation which is willing to provide $200,000, provided the public sector matches that amount. So that's what this motion hopes to do. If the Government of Saskatchewan or Crown Corporation, and remember that SaskPower has been a long-time supporter of the IMAX, of the Kramer Science Center, the Science Center and the Kramer IMAX Theatre, then if they or the government can come up with $100,000, we'll provide $100,000 as well under this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fougere?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I rise in concurrence with the motion. Please support the notion of a partnership between IMAX and the provincial and city governments. And I do look to SaskPower as likely one of the agents for funding. It is they are a partner already. And the site, it was, as you know, is a former SaskPower site, so it seems logical that way. So I will support it. It is, I think, an important element of our tourism and education for the city. So I have no problem supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Yes, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I have the honor of having the Science Centre and the Kramer IMAX Theatre in my ward, and this is an inspiring motion. The fact that we have a private entity out there who wishes to provide $200,000 to this public good, I think, number one, is inspiring. Secondly, as I understand, Councillor Clifton, you can confirm if I'm mistaken, this private entity wants to remain anonymous. So they're not looking for any credit or kudos or accolades or anything like that. They just want to do something great for the community. So I just find that incredibly honorable and inspiring. As Councillor Fougere mentioned, It is a great destination in our community. I know I've taken my own kids there several times, most recently to watch the tornado exhibit, which was quite incredible. There was a fellow who built a truck to drive right into the middle of a tornado, and so very educational, very interesting, and lots of fun. So with that, Madam Chair, certainly supporting this.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you. Under the order of bylaws and related reports is report CR 12-78.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move concurrence on behalf of Public Works Committee. Two parts to this. Number one, that the sewer services bylaw be amended to apply a consistent fixed daily charge to all residential storm drainage services, equivalent to the rate applied to all properties less than 1,000 square meters. And secondly, that the city solicitor be directed to prepare the necessary amendments to the sewer services bylaw to A, remove reference to the completed phase in throughout the bylaw, including in subsection 16.2 and Schedule D, and secondly, amend subsection 16 sub 1 to be in accordance with recommendation number 1. Move concurrence. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a memo related to bylaw 2012-43. It is report number CR 12-79, and a motion for receive and file would be in order.
Councillor Clipshaw?
Thanks. The memo has to do with the upcoming bylaw that I'll be introducing, and it was noted that the bylaw is already passed, but the date that it comes into effect was improperly recorded, so we're changing that and that only.
Thank you. Do we need a seconder then? Thanks, Councillor Zarka. All those in favor? None opposed? That's carried. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you. Next is the bylaw that was reported on, 2012-24.
Councillor Clipshaw?
Actually, I've got three bylaws here. Does the clerk want to introduce the mail-in ballot and the zoning amendment bylaw as well, or I'm supposed to do all three?
Thank you, Councillor Clipsham. I could certainly do that. There are three bylaws being considered. So the first is with respect to the sewer service amendment. The second bylaw relates to the mail-in ballot bylaw for the upcoming election. And the third is with respect to the Regina zoning amendment bylaw.
Thank you. Councillor Clipshaw?
I'd ask that the bylaw 42, which has to do with the mail-in ballot, be separated. So I'm going to make motions on 24 and 43.
Thank you.
Okay.
So noted.
Okay. I'll move second by Councillor Zarka that bylaws 2012-24 and 2012-43 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's carried.
And I'll move seconded by Councillor Brown that bylaws 2012-24 and 2012-43 be read a second time.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed? That's carried.
And I'll move seconded by Councillor Murray that Council hereby consents to bylaws 2012-24 and 2012-43 going to third reading at this meeting.
Thank you. All those in favor? None opposed? That's carried unanimously.
And I'll move seconded by Councillor Findura that bylaws 2012-24 and 2012-43 be read a third time.
Thank you. All those in favor? None opposed? That's carried. Councillor Clipshaw?
I'll move seconded by Councillor Zarka that bylaw 2012-42 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's carried.
I'll move seconded by Councillor Brown that 2012-42 be read a second time.
Discussion? Councillor Clipshaw?
Thanks, Madam Clerk. What this bylaw does is allow people who are shut in to or otherwise unable to get to a poll that may be where they are shut in, allows them to vote in the upcoming municipal election. And I think that's great as far as it goes. It's called the mail-in ballot bylaw. So it's pretty straightforward. I think the procedures are going to be self-evident when a person requests to be able to do this. And I hope that they do, even though they have other things on their mind, obviously, at the time. I, however, favor a bylaw that would be somewhat more expansive than that. I would like to see a bylaw that would allow people who are otherwise away and not able to vote in the time when the clerk establishes the polling for people who know they're going to be out of the city. So October 24th, I think, is our election day.
Yeah.
If I'm leaving on October 17th, the week before, I'll have a chance to vote. But if I'm leaving on September 24th, I won't have a chance to vote. And I think that I would like to see that the city provide for that kind of voting availability, and it's not in here. And I would move an amendment. I don't know what the words are, but maybe I would move. No, we'll just vote on it and see if the others think that we need to expand this. And if others think we need to expand this, then we'll have some direction from that.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councillor Fugere?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. We talked about this originally when the report went through, and the question I had at the time, and still remains, is one of ensuring accuracy of this. And I think this is, my comments were, let's walk before we run. Let's find out how this works. For those who truly are not able to vote, and they may well be there, but are unable to get to location to vote. And I'm wondering if the Madam Clerk can give us any information as to how other municipalities may be doing this, and if there's ways to ensure that those who have voted by absentee ballot are actually the ones who voted. So I think it's important that we know that those who vote are truly the ones that should be voting, and the ballot isn't passed to a third party or some way to verify accuracy and the veracity of the vote.
Madam City Clerk?
Thank you. This was discussed at a recent convention of the Saskatchewan Association of City Clerks, and the province was in attendance. And the wording that they have proposed on the certification that will come back on the mail-in ballot is that I confirm that I am the one who applied for the ballot and marked it. So that would be the assurance that the absentee voter, they would have to come in person to make application. They would have to show identification, the same as anybody else will have to at this election. At that point, if we confirmed that they were eligible for a mail-in ballot package, we would put them on the list. When the ballots became available, we would mail it out to the address that they had given to us as to where it was that they were going to be located. They would mark the ballot, put it inside a ballot envelope. That ballot envelope goes inside a certificate envelope, and that's what has the certificate saying that they have received and marked it. That in return comes into an envelope that gets mailed back to the City of Regina. And then on election day, when those envelopes are being opened, anybody would have the opportunity of having an agent present, and they could take a look at the return envelopes to make sure that there was nothing torn or written on them that shouldn't be, and they would have the opportunity to object to the ballot being counted at that time.
Thank you for that, Madam Deputy Mayor. I'm wondering if there's any municipalities in Saskatchewan that will be using this, and any comments by other clerks from other jurisdictions on whether they support this and whether they feel that is the system that, as you described it, is accurate enough and safe enough that we know that the person who will be voting will actually vote.
Madam City Clerk?
Thank you. Currently, I'm aware that Saskatoon has passed their mail-in ballot bylaw, and they, in fact, opened it to absentee voters, but they are not using it for anyone in a personal care facility. They are going to continue to use their mobile polls and special polls for those opportunities. And yes, they are confident that when a person has shown their identification in order to get placed on the list, and that they are confirming that they are the ones marking it, they are confident with that.
Thank you for that. I guess I'm interested to see what other members of council may think it's interesting that other jurisdictions are doing that. So I take it that, through Madam Chair, that Saskatoon is using a wider definition. It is anyone who is not available during the voting time period. I'd like to hear what other ones have to say, but I'm just cautious about ensuring that we do it right with the personal care homes first, which is what our initial discussion was. And then if that was successful, we would move it forward in another election, maybe into a wider discussion. So I know Councillor Gibson wants to go forward now, but I'd like to hear what other members of council have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? Councillor Murray?
Thanks, Madam Chair. It wasn't until Councillor Clipson started talking about extending that time frame a little bit forward, giving a little bit greater time frame, that it dawned on me that if a lot of these folks would be shut-ins, potentially in healthcare facilities, fairly potentially aged, if somebody were to cast that ballot and then they pass away, what happens to that ballot? Is it still a valid ballot for a deceased person? Was there discussion around that? Again, the further you move this into the future, the greater that potential. Unfortunately, we are losing citizens every day. And if they've cast a ballot, what does that mean? And I don't mean to be at levity. I'm simply curious what happens. Is that a legal ballot?
Madam City Clerk?
Thank you. That topic was not brought up during the discussions at the convention. I guess in my view, part of it would be similar to if somebody took the opportunity to vote at an advance voting and passed away between that date and the actual election date, their ballot would still count. So it is my belief that they would have completed the ballot, they would have mailed it in, we would have no way of knowing that they had passed, and so in fact it would be counted.
Okay, and that was my question, and there's no way for that ballot to be tracked back to whoever. So, and that answers my question. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Brown? Okay, I didn't see it. I just saw both of your hands. So, Councillor O'Donnell?
Thank you. So, we don't normally have this discussion at this point in time, and I find this very interesting. So, I'm glad we're having this discussion. I look at it this way. One, we have a responsibility to make sure as many people be engaged in the democratic process as we possibly can. Two, I believe that 4 years or 8 years from now, we're going to be talking about this way different. I don't think we're going to be talking about whether or not we have a particular ballot this way. We might look at other ways that are in this more technological world to make it a whole lot easier. So I don't see this as being a big leap very far. So the first part is, do I want to do this? Absolutely, let's just go. So to Councillor Clipsham's suggestion, it seems to make perfect sense to me. But I more rest my case with the idea of responsibility. It is our responsibility to make sure that we get as many people engaged as possible. It's our responsibility in this day and age to make sure that it is as easy as possible to vote and be part of what goes on. We all have watched what's going on in Egypt at this point in time, and people are lined up. Wouldn't it be lovely if people would line up in Regina? Well, they haven't for a long time. If this makes it easier and we can get more people to vote, I'm all in.
Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I just want to understand some of the parameters here. With respect to timing, we are constrained in our discussion about this today because it's a council meeting. We each get to speak once to it, and that's it, other than Councillor Clipsham, who can close debate, and we get 5 minutes. So I just want to understand, through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, what is the timing? Do we have to resolve this today, or if we didn't resolve it today, what options do we have?
I know that if we don't vote for it to go to third reading, it would be sent to the next meeting. So just so you're aware of that. Madam City Clerk, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add.
Thank you. There is no push on getting this adopted today. The reason we had held off bringing it forward until this time is that we in fact needed the province to pass their regulations with respect to what the envelopes and application form, etc. would look like. And so this was the first opportunity to bring it forward. If there is an amendment being suggested that would go back to the solicitor's office with respect to adding a definition and clauses related to absentee voters, I believe that we could do that and then bring it forward within the next meeting or two and still have ample time to get the applications.
Okay, and that's what I was wondering, Madam Deputy Mayor, is at some point, given the election is October 4th, we're going to run into time constraints. But
24th.
Yeah, at some point, given the fact that the election is on October 24th, we will run into a time constraint if we don't deal with it before then. So I just want to understand the time frame. I also want to make sure that that Councillor Clipsham's reading is the one that's understood. And so, through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, just to confirm, the current bylaw would not allow someone who leaves, I think it's 10 days out, so October 13th or earlier, to participate in the election. Is that correct?
Madam City Clerk?
That would be correct insofar as making application for the mail-in ballot. There are still opportunities at advance polls in that 10-day period.
Right, okay. Okay, and that helps me. Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Clipsham?
Well, rather than taking the city clerk or taking instruction from what she said, I think rather than putting this forward and seeing if it's defeated or it doesn't go to the next round, what I will do is I will introduce at this time a referral motion to refer to the city solicitor and city clerk to bring back a bylaw that would permit absentee ballots.
Thank you.
And is that sufficient direction? I mean, there's issues around the time frame and those kinds of things, which I don't know that we can resolve here with any amount of discussion, but is that sufficient?
Madam City Clerk?
It is certainly something that we had spoken about with our legal department, so they wouldn't be entirely surprised if we brought this back and asked for changes to the bylaw that would incorporate that.
Okay.
So as long as you aren't necessarily saying that it has to be the next meeting, I would say within the next meeting or two, we could have it back.
So it would be by the end of June, because there's
Correct.
Yeah. And I'm just of course you understand, Madam Deputy Mayor, but if this is defeated, then I will consider that issue put to rest. If it is passed, the referral, then we'll see what comes back, and we can talk about the broader definition at that time.
Thank you. So on the referral, there's no
Just a clarification.
clarification?
Yeah, clarification. I guess through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Clifton, is this being referred so that it comes back to an executive committee and then to council so that we can have more wide-ranging and more freedom in our discussion?
Councillor Clifton?
That's a good idea. Why don't we do that, if that's possible, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. And a
Come back.
seconder? Okay. Okay, so no debate on referral then. All those in favor? It's carried unanimously. And our last motion? Thank you. Seconder?
Second it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All those in favor? None opposed? That's carried. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
May have added a little bit of confusion to the situation. There are a number of things there, and the previous delegation mentioned water monitoring.
Getting into the city system.
So could I say it's the reverse of a backflow valve on a regular house where the ball comes up and stops the